Good afternoon, or looking outside of the window, I should probably say good evening. I'll try to be as concise as I can, and I'll try to share some interesting insights talking about the origins of these incidents that we have been experiencing in last decade. We're talking about dark web, we're talking about hackers, we're talking about growing sophistication of the attacks, but I'd like to explore why they happen, the root causes. Briefly about myself, I mostly have a technical background. I recall starting my first job as a pen tester when I was about 17 years old. I do have an academic background in American law and in investigation and prosecution of cybercrime. About Immuniweb, we're an application security company. We are doing application security testing, and we have a lot of technology research and practical usage of machine learning theory. Let's start with some eye-catching numbers that I found extremely relevant and important to review today. So I'd like to understand what is going on and to showcase some statistics from different sources. So we are an important increase, I'd say, spike in the attacks that are targeting our suppliers. Suppliers, we can talk about IT vendors, we can talk about lawyers, we can talk about financial advisors, all right? And this number is interestingly correlated with an average time to identify an intrusion, a data breach, that was as high as 200 days in 2019. You may reasonably ask, how comes that in the epoch of AI that has reportedly defeated cybercrime, and we also have blockchain, we have many emerging technologies, how comes that it takes 200 days to identify a data breach? The answer is quite simple. Most of the data breaches are targeting our third parties to whom we entrust our crown jewels. Because the attackers, they're very pragmatic. Okay, differently from many cybersecurity companies who are concerned about growth, who are concerned about becoming unicorns, cyber criminals are extremely pragmatic. They're talking about money and profit since day zero. Okay? So they're not bothering assaulting your castle and trying to bypass your multi-layer security if they can just get in by one of your suppliers who has uncontrolled and, practically speaking, unlimited access to your data. So they will target your third parties and they will not target you. Okay? According to the European Data Protection Bureau, since the enforcement of GDPR in 2018, we have recorded over 150 GDPR complaints. And what is important here to highlight is that these are the complaints that are stemming from discovered security incidents. Okay? We're talking about the continuously growing number of intrusions. However, the problem is that very few of sophisticated intrusions are being timely detected, if ever. Because the attackers, they don't want to have problems. They don't want to expose that they did something. Their ultimate goal is to remain silent, invisible. Okay? So the problem is that when we're talking about reported breaches, we're talking about the minor part of the iceberg. Another interesting part about internal insecurity. Very few organizations across the globe actually enforce internal security. They believe that internally they can have confidence and trust, and they don't really need to enforce any practical security measures. And I would say, indeed, insider attacks, insider threats, it's not a huge topic today. However, the problem is that it's frequently sufficient to get access to one single machine in a company or in a financial institution to spread the attack internally and to get the crown jewels, because we do not have internal control as it should be. Talk about mobile applications, probably an interesting applicability here. We all know that there is a lot of malware, a lot of trojans in the mobile application space. However, what we are seeing at Immuniweb these days is that we start having a lot of rogue applications, meaning someone will create an application that will be abusing or misusing your identity, company name, and will be saying, this is Gartner conference that allows you to download Magic Quadrant for free, right? Eventually it will not. And today we have a lot of interesting use cases when in alternative application stores, because I'm confident you all know and probably using Apple Store, Google Play, but we have about 100 more public stores, including countries like China, and where we have no control, no verification what people upload, and you can find there a great wealth, a multitude of applications that pretend to be Swiss financial institutions, American financial institutions, organizations, and IT companies. What is interesting to highlight, we have a lot of reports talking about insecurity of the IoT. I would say probably here the root cause is about economy, not about technology. Why? We are looking to save money when we are purchasing hardware. We are looking to save money when we are purchasing IoT controller, right? Who offers the best price? Developing countries, right? The problem is that they do not care about security, they do not care about privacy, and frequently they manufacture insecure by design devices. For example, they will not have a possibility to update the firmware, meaning that once you install your connected device and there is a problem discovered there in, let's say, at 0 day, you cannot update it because there is no functionality built in to update it. Okay? So the only way to remediate is to throw it away and to purchase a new one. Why? Because we're talking about cheapest price, and obviously we do not consider putting in privacy costs, update costs, maintenance costs, because it will become too expensive and people will shift buy European goods and so on. So I think it's interesting to highlight that in 2019 we have 61% of organizations that have experienced and reported a security incident related to IoT, because many people still believe that IoT is like remote risk that is not yet here, and I would say frequently it's true, because if IoT is not connected to the internet and is not accessible somehow from the nearby located device, even if it's insecure, we don't really care today. However, we'll probably start hearing tomorrow when everything will be connected somehow to the internet, and it may become a true disaster. So, but to summarize, you can see that we have a wide spectrum of attacks, and it's mostly about organizational things, and it's not about technology. It's rather about diversified IT assets that many people tend to ignore when they consider their risk management, cybersecurity policy, and so on. Several quick numbers from Immuniweb research that we conducted in 2019. Talking about dark web, I think we'll have an illuminating talk on the dark web just after. It goes through the details, but in average we can find about 1,000 passwords per financial institution in the dark web. I'd say per se it's not a huge risk, because about 75% in my experience, 75% of the password coming from third-party systems. I mean our suppliers, different websites, even we had some amusement websites where we can find corporate emails with their passwords. The problem is that password reuse attacks. Many people use similar or even identical passwords everywhere, or it also provides a wide spectrum of ideas for social engineering and spear phishing. Okay? So if someone has access to all this data, it will be much easier to get into your financial institution. Okay? Talking about non-financial industry, the largest global company from Fortune 500. We found in September, I guess, in September 2019, over 21 million of credentials belonging to them being for sale in dark web. It's a huge number because we carefully distilled the data. As in the dark web today, I would probably say 90% of the things that are being sold is trash. These are duplicates, fakes, garbage. Okay? So you find many script kiddies, many inexperienced hackers who are downloading one big old database. They're trying to update something in their records, change password, and selling it to you saying that this is a zero-day Microsoft hack and so on. At the Immuniweb, we develop different machine learning models. For example, we can predict whether the password has been created by human or machine. When we download a new dump and we see that 100% or 99% of the passwords have been created by machine, we have two possibilities. Either it's fake, or they didn't manage to decrypt the passwords, and they just randomly generated passwords saying, you know, these passwords are valid, plain text, if they don't work, probably they have been changed. So 21 million of credentials we are talking about distilled about purified data. If we'll be just counting everything, we'll be probably talking about billions of passwords. Talking about e-banking, I personally was surprised. Okay. Personally was surprised that 7% of e-banking applications, externally accessible, had known and exploitable vulnerabilities, some of them being publicly known since 2011. All right? So this is a big problem of shadow IT, because frequently we build our applications from many different components, from open source, that we forget to update, that we suddenly say, did we have G-Cure on this? Okay. So the problem is that we have so many components that it's difficult to keep an eye on all of them, and it's extremely challenging to make sure that everything is up to date. Mobile applications, I would say vast majority have at least one medium security flaw. Okay. And 100% of the banks have or had security flaws related to forgotten systems or shadow IT, legacy systems. We have great multitude of APIs, of subdomains, of demo systems, of builds exposed in the cloud for test purposes by our suppliers who wanted to make a beautiful demo to impress their customer, and suddenly forgot to remove the demo being hosted in Amazon cloud and so on. So shadow IT is a huge problem because we cannot protect what we don't know, and eventually the attackers will inevitably find this and will try to get in because they're always looking for the weakest link. External attack surface. To continue the previous speech about 0 days that brought a lot of interesting insight. So how it looks like today. We have a rapid proliferation of public cloud. Public cloud is great because it saves money, it brings a lot of agility, efficiency, it enables growth, okay? However, the problem is that the number of qualified, adequately trained security professionals who are familiar with the technology is considerably lower. It's growing, but not fast enough, compared to the proliferation of cloud. I guess the statistics from Forbes said that about 80% of corporate data in 2020 will be stored in the cloud. Problem is that we do not have sufficient amount of skills to duly protect and to keep an eye how well or how bad the clouds are configured and protected. Public code repositories. It's a very important tool in modern software development era. It enables agility, it enables to connect different people from different parts of your team. However, human mistakes are inevitable. One of the largest financial institutions recently was exposed because their developers left sensitive source code with APIs, keys, with passwords, with source code that is, let's say, intellectual property per se. Okay? So sometimes you just upload something to GitHub and you forget to make sure that this particular code will remain private. So as we have been talking today, we have a trend to outsource as much as we can. This is great, however, the problem is that we unfrequently keep an eye on security of our suppliers. We do make them filling in questionnaires, we do review their certificates, and we ask them some very simplistic solutions like, do we have an internal antivirus? Can you please confirm that you have a web application firewall? Obviously, they will all say yes. In fact, most of them will not have this. Okay. Shadow IT. What we eye more and more, shadow IT is a phenomenon that we probably have since over 2 decades, but in 2019 it's becoming particularly sharp because it's extremely easy to create your IT device, your own cloud, to build your web application. We have many SaaS systems, many companies where you can build your own websites that will be able to processing data in several clicks. You don't need to be a techie anymore. So what's going on when our employees are unable to get support from their IT team saying we need a CRM plugin that would make automated mailing, and IT team is busy saying, sorry, we have no time. What they'll do? They'll create their own system outside of your company, upload all your CRM data there, and will start sending emails, believing that it's great, having good purposes, but eventually exposing all your data somewhere else. Internet of Things. I would say that we are growth of IoT everywhere, and the only issue is that frequently we do not even have them in our risk management. We tend to forget believing that it's about logistics, infrastructure, and IoT is not really something that we need to consider in cyber, that it's rather about infrastructure and physical security. Unfortunately, as soon as your IoT starts connecting to your cyber systems, and we'll probably eyes this more and more, they become a part of your cyber resilience. Open source. Last but not least, we have growing, I'd probably even say skyrocketing growth of open source. It makes a lot of sense because obviously we will not need to invent the bike each time we're building a complicated enterprise system. The problem is that frequently when companies are outsourcing development of software, they believe that their enterprise systems will be built from scratch. In fact, most of the software developers will take existing open source component, compound them, and deliver to you as your custom tailor-made enterprise software. You'll be happy, however, when you will experience an intrusion. You will flabbergasted discover that you eventually had many open source components that were never properly documented. And somehow, when we had one more zero-day discovered in popular open source, you've been skeptical saying, we are not concerned, we have our own enterprise system, nothing to do with this, and actually you have to do. So I'd say uncontrolled usage of open source can be extremely dangerous and hazardous. So, let's have a look at predominating cybersecurity challenges that we had in 2019, and I think that we'll probably have in 2020. Growing burden of compliance. So compliance today is slowly becoming a disaster because GDPR, I would say, I know many experienced CISOs who are saying, what, GDPR consumes so much time that we have to postpone mission-critical, practical tasks because we had an objective from the board to make sure that we'll have paper-based compliance, and they told us that our firewall update can be postponed next year. We don't really care. We need to have this paper saying that regulatory we are doing fine. So frequently compliance consumes and devours huge amount of resources that should be deployed somewhere else. Have a look now into the United States. Starting from 2020, we have the famous California Consumer Privacy Act that will become a law. And I'd say many people say that it's a great move from Californians that they have implemented their own GDPR. I'd say that's great, but you know what will happen if every American state will create a similar law? When doing business with the United States, we'll have to consider 50 overlapping, probably contradictory, compliance law. It's just impossible. Nobody will do this. So when we have so many different joint regulations, law frameworks, obligatory or not, enforceable or not, at the end of the day, they undermine cybersecurity because we just cannot comply with all of them, and we have to decide that, all right, we're not doing business with the United States who are living in California because, we just don't have the resources to comply. As simple as that. Another interesting thing that we all read interesting reports by IDC, Forrester, and Gartner saying that we are growing our cybersecurity budgets and we are increasingly spending more and more. What we eye on the market is that despite general growth, for some traditional niches like device security, user endpoints, web application firewall, web applications, we spend less because even if we have an increase of budget 10%, okay, we'll probably have to spend now on the IoT, we'll probably have to spend on containers, we'll probably have to spend on many emerging parts of cybersecurity programs that have never existed before. And with a smaller budget in 2010, we could spend, let's say, $500 per application per year. And today, with a considerably bigger budget, we can spend $50. Okay? So given that the complexity of cybersecurity is growing, given that we have to consider many different things, at the end of the day, per computer, per server, per machine, we spend less. Clouded visibility of our digital assets. So that is to say, if we don't know the assets we have, we cannot protect them. And this is a disaster, especially because of the third parties who have the data that belongs to us. And at the end of the day, we have no clue who control it because we have suppliers, we have their suppliers who control the backup. And at the end of the day, you may have third parties and third parties of third parties who have pieces of your data. Cybersecurity industry is also contributing there. Today we see a lot of cybersecurity companies with great solutions. However, most of them are partially overlapping, offering similar outcomes and trying to compete by price and trying to get scissors on the phone at any price and trying to explain that only their solution can save your company. At the end of the day, it creates what we call vendor fatigue, when security professionals simply say, you know what, we don't want to talk to vendors. We are sick and tired, we'll do something on our own. And last but not least, sensitive data handled by careless employees and extra contractors. To summarize, you can see that organizational issues widely prevail. So it's not even about advanced persistent threats. It's not about zero day. It's not about some sophisticated technology. But I would rather say that it's about organizational risk management part. So, thank you so much. I hope I didn't consume too much of your time. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much, Professor, for inviting me here. Thank you so much.